Hello everyone and welcome to the channel. So I love the Nintendo GameCube. It was a pretty weird and different feeling console. I mean, look at it, it's a little lunchbox that plays games. Nintendo during this era felt so experimental and weird. There's an almost throw everything at the wall to see what sticks mentality to its software library. The games just had a very distinctive feel and look, some of which somehow still look extraordinary. I remember using a camcorder or a digicam to record myself playing games off the screen back then. This was like the most breathtaking looking graphics I had ever seen, and I just wanted to preserve that memory. Kinda wish I could get my old tapes and memory cards now. There were games that were geared more towards realism, but a good number of GameCube titles utilised very hyper-stylized visuals, although sometimes it was like a mix of both. And it was usually a nice contrast. Ultra detailed looking environments against the colourful, chunky, polygonal look of these Nintendo characters. And even now I find so many of these old games to look so lively and expressive.
Hooray! Yay!
The cute cartoony designs of the Mario characters within the original Luigi's Mansion had a nice juxtaposition to the more realistic looking textures of the Gothic mansion setting. And there is a slightly off-model charm here. Luigi has a lot more squash and stretch animation looking ever so slightly nightmarish. It all really adds to the game's atmosphere. This lo-fi mansion has such a sense of place about it. It still feels so warm and cozy, so inviting. GameCube games could also look so vibrant and colourful. Isle Delfino within Super Mario Sunshine is still my favourite place to visit in a video game. If anyone needs me mentally, I'll be here. So GameCube is just a bit weird and wonderful, but I wanted to zone in on just one game for the console, the epitome of GameCube weirdness. Wario World, a console exclusive released in 2003 developed by Treasure Incorporated. You know, the awesome folks behind Gunstar Heroes, Sin and Punishment, Mischief Makers, intensely arcadey style action experiences. It's such an unusual collaboration. But with myself being a die-hard Wario fan, particularly towards the Land titles on the Game Boy, I had to be there day one for Wario's first and currently only fully 3D adventure, which is a little bit surprising to say, isn't it? Why hasn't there been another? I still remember switching on my copy for the first time and immediately fell in love with its very surreal humour and visual style. Everything about Wario World just screams GameCube to me. It can feel strangely atmospheric and cozy. It's beautiful, honestly. There are colourful, chunky, polygonal characters, contrasted against the really detailed looking environments, and the ultra-realistic treasures for Wario to collect. Those stock photo backgrounds, I don't think they make games like this anymore. And the visuals can look strangely nightmarish at times. This game really is like a fever dream, it kind of scares me. Wario World is a very specific game feel. It fully embraces the GameCube's off-model look and over-exaggerated animations. It's perhaps not quite as over-the-top as Luigi, and I don't think I've ever seen a video game be so utterly confident in just being weird, the developers almost having a nonchalant approach to its visual design. To begin with, Wario World has a jungle Lost World theme, which feels very appropriately Wario. Enemies are cartoony dinosaurs or whatnot. Then when you say reach the circus area, your main adversaries are punching clowns. Every enemy shares these same attack patterns, every enemy is a simple reskin. Supposedly Wario World had a very short development cycle, so this was most likely a perfectly acceptable cost-cutting method. But the thing is, Wario World just goes completely ridiculous with it. The Ice World has you go up against fighting snowmen. Flying snowmen, this is 11 out of 10 visual design. It's amazing, it's almost like the game just doesn't really care. This is such a video gamey feeling video game, and I'm all for it. Having not played Wario World in years, it really says a lot if I can still remember one specific visual oddity, like this guy. Ever since his original Game Boy outing, Wario Land featured these really grotesque, outrageous looking designs. It was very edgy 1990s attitude, and helped separate it from just being another Nintendo Mario style platformer. And I do think that same philosophy seems to have been carried over to World. By far the real highlight of the game for me are the boss encounters. I really could not wait to see what monstrosity Wario would go up against next. And in true Treasure style, there is an overabundance of bosses. Every level and every world ends in a boss fight, each one seemingly more insane looking than the last. An anthropomorphic cow wrestler wearing tight red briefs, with the most insanely overconfident strut I've ever seen. A gigantic lizard lady with blonde hair and wearing a red bikini. Incredible nightmarish looking spectacles. The weirdness of Super Mario Wonder suddenly feels so quaint in comparison. These are the real best Nintendo characters, put them all in Smash, especially this guy. Now is a good time to mention I have been recording and playing from a Japanese copy of Wario World. The box is designed to be like a solid gold bar with Wario's face printed on the front, and it even comes with shiny foil stickers. That's certainly a worthy purchase, isn't it? But the main reason I'm using a Japanese edition is the minor differences between the Western release. Aside some very obvious bug fixes, the final boss has a unique second half. It's actually one of my favourite battles in the game. Maybe too easy of a fight overall, but having the music kick in as you mash the attack button and just wail on this giant polygonal shape, all against this beautiful skybox in the background, still something about Wario World I can just kind of vibe with. I love everything about this aesthetic and this slightly crude toilet humour. Surely the game's most notorious humour is the pause menu music. If you pause the game and put up with at least 50 minutes of this, Wario will eventually apologise.
Sorry.
But you have nothing to be sorry about at all, Wario. If anything, we should be the ones apologising. So if you haven't figured it out already, I love Wario. Who doesn't love that face? No, more specifically, I love Wario Land. WarioWare is great, but it's still those classic adventure games I still prefer. The Game Boy titles, the Game Boy Advance, and the Virtual Boy game included, are some of my favourite platformers ever. I grew up with these games. This is my Nintendo franchise. Well, that and probably Zelda, Metroid, Star Fox and Donkey Kong Country, so let's say it's at least a top 5 Nintendo franchise for me then. So as a keen Wario enthusiast, whatever that is, how is Wario World as a game? How does it compare to those old 2D games? Wario World is a platformer slash beat 'em up, and it really did feel as though this was where the character was originally heading towards. It's kind of funny how World is trying to prop up the Ware series by offering downloadable demos of the original WarioWare to your Game Boy Advance. A major selling point here on the box art. In 2003, old school Wario wasn't a corrupt CEO, even though that is a surprisingly good fit for the character. Pretty sure Wario would still be a better boss than most CEOs. But back in the olden days, I knew Wario more so as a fearless treasure hunter, not out to save the day, but on a quest for himself, driven by greed. It just felt quite unique back then, playing as a character advertised as being the bad guy. You could bully your opponents by shoving them, tossing them aside and robbing them of their valuables. So again, a beat 'em up was like the perfect direction for Wario, playing as this big bulky character, punching and smashing everything in your way, literally eating treasure. You know, it's almost like I'm describing Donkey Kong Bonanza. Maybe that game should have been a Wario Bonanza, a Wario Land Fartanza, if you will. I must admit, punching your enemies until they explode, swinging them around, performing Zangief-style pile drivers as everything and everyone explodes into coins, telling them to have a rotten day, with perhaps my favourite ever performance by Charles Martinet. It's all still so weirdly satisfying to watch. There has never been such a Wario game so true to the character. This really is the ultimate Wario simulator. Playing as an angry man with surely a lot of personal issues, you know, I think he might actually be a little bit misunderstood. I really want to say Wario World is the best game ever, my favourite ever Wario game, a vastly underrated GameCube title, and, well, actually that's custom robo if you didn't know already, and maybe Wario World is your favourite GameCube game. But, apologies to my GameCube friends, I just think Wario World is kind of eh. Now, I don't really play fighters or brawlers, but the very best examples of the genre I've played seem to know when and where to call it quits from all this very fun but admittedly slightly monotonous kicks and punches. The best games just knew when to wrap things up, or at the very least they had a 2-player co-op mode, or just featured an undeniable level of depth that even a novice like myself could at least respect. Wario World, on the other hand, just doesn't really have much going on. I really wish there was more to his moveset. There is still that iconic shoulder barge, ground pounds, and as much as it cracks me up seeing those goofy enemy reskins, it does make Wario World feel very repetitive. Wario World is a very short game, but it somehow manages to overstay its welcome for me. Now, the game does at least try to offer more for you to do here. The aforementioned collectible treasures to find, there is a switch in every level which causes the treasure chest to appear, crystals that must be collected to open the boss room doors, so careful exploration is required. There are dozens of puzzle rooms hidden throughout the levels, and I did find a vast majority of them surprisingly engaging. Well, maybe a little bit annoying towards the end, but I think overall I might have enjoyed these more than the actual game levels themselves. It also becomes very quickly apparent that difficulty in Wario World is strangely non-existent. Now, I haven't played this game for a while, so I did see my fair share of game overs, but having infinite continues and starting almost immediately at the point you died from at the cost of a few mere coins, this just completely kills any resemblance of a challenge. Falling out the map out of any of the main stages requires you to solve this little maze. You've got to find and smash open a crate to locate the spring to bounce back up to the level. Watch out for these ghost dogs and try not to fall into the water, which drains your coins. This really is way more annoying than it looks. And it is here where you'll probably notice the general handling on Wario is slightly frustrating. It's especially surprising considering how tight the controls were within Super Mario Sunshine, which was only released a year or so prior. Whenever Wario World starts demanding tight platforming, it just completely falls apart for me. I think even the game itself knows its platforming isn't particularly good, with all these very unnatural looking markers on the floor telling you where you need to stand. Level design really isn't all that interesting either, and Shivering Mountains is by far my most hated level. Having to repeat the stage because you missed items on the slide, and of course being knocked off the slippery platforms means it's better this area, just give me a game over, I can't stand this. So maybe that all sounds a little bit negative, and it probably is actually, but I really wish Nintendo would resurrect Wario World and just create a follow-up, as long as the visuals are just as surreal. Can you imagine a sequel with an expanded moveset for Wario? How about a Double Dragon style co-op mode with Best Boy Waluigi? Or just a boss rush game with increasingly weirder opponents for Wario to go up against? I would love to see another Wario Land. It's hard to believe the last one happened so long ago now, but honestly I would be so much more excited for a true Wario World sequel. As it stands, Wario World is just that one weird little game for the oh-so-weird GameCube. It's not my favourite game for the console by a long shot, nor is it my favourite of the more traditional Wario adventures. It's just a game I love more so for its charm and overall aesthetic. Like for example, I may hate the level itself, but just look at Shivering Mountain's gorgeous Christmassy theme. I love this. The cascading waterfalls of the forest area, just look at this. The detailed look of the environments, the overall mood and lighting, and those oh so wonderful stock photo backgrounds. Wario World really is such a GameCube feeling game. Of course nowadays Wario is associated with WarioWare. Just look at how his default outfit from Super Smash Bros. Is his biker attire. Not a single arena taking place within Castle Wario or Kitchen Island. Oh, it just breaks my heart, honestly. I only hope that after seeing Donkey Kong finally getting his big game comeback, we'll see similar treatment for Wario one day. But who knows? Well, that's enough GameCube nostalgia from me today. If you made it this far into the video, then this is the part where I say thanks ever so much for watching, and I hope I catch you again next time. Take care.